Hello and welcome to another podcast. We will be discussing education, attainment of children both in primary and secondary and also in university level. Today we have our regular guest, the one and only Zakir Hussain. Welcome, Zakir bhai.
Thank you, Ruhul bhai,
Yeah.
and Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam. So we will be discussing education, and obviously Zakir bhai is a parent. I'm a parent too, so we have some experience of education. Um, so Zakir bhai, let me ask you, how do you think education has sort of evolved within the last few decades, if you like, you know?
Yeah, I think well, having done a bit of research on it, initially, if you look back, say the 70s or the 60s, the discipline within schools were a lot more strict. What schools would teach were given to them by the authorities to teach, even though to a certain extent that happens today. But you don't have the caning that they used to give to students for a bad behavior.
Mm.
Now the schools have more options to choose what subjects to teach. So certain ones are mandatory. So, for example, in my daughter's school, they're being taught Spanish. So I did ask the head teacher. I said, "Why Spanish?" So she said, "It's because if they teach Bengali, then the Turkish parents will say, 'Can you do Turkish?' And then the Somalian parents will say, 'Can you do Somalian?' So they
Mm.
had to choose. Whereas before, it would be a case of that's the language that you're teaching, and that's it.
Mm.
So in terms of the discipline, I think that it was a lot more stricter before. Now I think it's really relaxed in some cases, which has positives and negatives as well. It depends how you look at it. And I think in general, the teachers and the skills that they bring is probably of a higher quality than what was available before. It's not to say that the teachers before weren't skilled, didn't have the knowledge or were less able. I think with modern day training and all the research that goes into teaching, the best way to teach, for example, Montessori, the in nursery, child-led development. Now that's something just quite recent. So things like that wasn't available back in the 4 or 5 decades ago. So yes, there's been a lot of changes, some for the better and some I won't say for the worse, but questionable, and I think it needs to be looked into more.
No, I suppose there's always pros and cons, Obviously, there's
Yeah,
more discipline, in the old days. Obviously, caning, I will never support.
no, I won't
People
do
used
that.
to have caning in the old days. And obviously now, yes, with the, we have a lot more knowledge and a lot more training facilities for teachers, which we probably didn't have in the old days. That's one of
Yes,
the
true.
yeah, that's one of the differences. And obviously, because of the technology and the IT, information is widely available, which again,
Absolutely.
in the old days we didn't have access to. Even I remember, like when I first went to university, uh, we used to be told by the teacher to go and buy books from the bookstores. But nowadays, nobody needs to go to the bookstores. You can just buy
Absolutely.
stuff
Yeah.
online,
That's it. Yeah,
from
thank you for
Amazon,
that.
eBay.
Yeah.
It's so much easier. And obviously, especially when it comes to like doing
Everything's online now, yes.
yeah, especially when it comes to doing assignments, we have Chat GPT, which really revolutionized the whole
Yeah.
learning environment, Again, with Chat GPT, it has its pros and cons, In the old days, even when I was, going to university, we had to really, research, read books and write
Yeah.
stuff on our own. But now, with Chat GPT, you can just enter the question, it will give you the whole assignment,
You know one
So
thing.
it's actually making a lot of these new generation very lazy, and they're not
Yeah.
really thinking critically. That is quite worrying actually, because we actually learn, like even when it comes to driving. When I first learned driving, we used to have, I don't know if you've seen it, we used to have a thing called A to Z in London to, like,
Yeah.
go from
Yes.
A to B. But now we have apps like Google Maps, Waze. Yeah, anybody can just get into a car. If they're a driver, they can go to any, any destination. So that's in terms of is like basically the technology is making us very lazy. And I think it's very bad for memory as well. Like in the old days, we used to be able to like memorize stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
I
now,
think,
like, it's very hard to remember with all the, because everything's at your fingertips.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I think that's the worry. I was going to mention that, but you said it. Naturally, it makes people lazy, and also the memory power is going down. Critical thinking is going, because you don't have to think anymore. You just type in. As long as you've got the brains to type something in, Google will get the answer. What is that doing to us in the future? Many parts of the brain that we're meant to be using, we're not using. And that is going to have an effect on us when we get older. And also remember, the genes we pass on to the next generation is not going to be a very intelligent gene, if you think about it. So I know, I know some might say this is delving into, sort of conspiracy type of um, realm. But, if we look at the situation, studies show that the people, how they used to, for example, mathematics, the way you would learn all these different, now you've got the phone or calculator, and it does all the thinking for you.
Mm.
Now this sort of stuff will have a big impact. For example, a dementia. Has anyone linked studies to how people who get dementia, a lot of the time, some obviously get it, it's just old age. What they do say is when you stop being mentally active, your dementia is likely to get it's likely to worsen, and it is likely to speed up.
Mm.
So learning, keeping yourself, that now, because with technology, all you're doing is just typing things in. So even if you wanted to think, everything around you is telling you don't think, just type it in. So I personally am someone who feels that technology in terms of education has done, and this may be controversial, more bad for the younger generation than good. The reason why I'm saying that is as they grow older, their ability to think, to memorize, it's all been weakened. And that is not good for the future. I know many will say, hearing this, will say, well, technology has revolutionized many things. True. But in terms of the human brain and its development, I don't think the types of modern education we have, with all the technology we use for education, in the long run, it's actually going to benefit us as human beings and our brain abilities.
Yeah. Some people might say like we're becoming like robots,
Robots.
you know.
Yeah, we are. Yeah, we
Even
glorified
Elon
robots.
Musk, people like Elon Musk and others are saying, like, obviously we will have to rely on AI. Yeah, that is the future. But the question is like whether AI or technology will rule over us or whether we will rule over them.
It,
There's an
it is
argument out
worrying.
there. There's an argument out there whether AI would be much smarter than us, which is quite, scary actually to think about it.
I think
Yeah.
I'm
I
not
don't know if
worried
you've
so much
seen that.
about.
I saw a few movies where they show how the future will be like. I think I Robot was one of them. How robots take
Yeah,
over the world. So God forbid. I don't want
I
to
think
live to see that day.
what
When
worries me
robots
more,
take over the world.
ruled by on that point, what worries me more is not that they'll become more intelligent than us, but as human beings, we know we don't create anything that's perfect and fault free. Say
Hmm.
if these robots malfunction, they'll
Exactly.
start wiping out anything close to them. So they don't have to be clever. It's just they just need a malfunction of some sort, or we'll
Hmm.
have chaos. So I understand that people say, oh, we need to advance and advance and advance, but advance to what end?
Hmm.
To what are we doing to ourselves? If you think about it, everything we do now, everything we eat more or less now, has some sort of artificial something which is alien to the body.
Hmm.
So the body won't be able to digest it. So I don't want to go into biology, but body won't be able to digest it. So as you can see, there's a lot of things that these artificial intelligence or an artificial food, everything is being done to say to the public, actually, this is good for you. But when you really do the studies and what the research show, it's not adding up.
Hmm. And also, like, I just want to touch on, discipline, like discipline in this country, in the UK, compared to discipline maybe in the Indian subcontinent. One of the differences I see is like in the subcontinent, the students still, highly respect the teachers.
Teachers.
They will call them
Yeah,
sir or madam, whereas in the UK or in Europe or in the Western world, we tend to call the teacher by their first name usually. So that's a major difference between Europe and Asia, I suppose. But the one country I really want to mention is like Japan. Japan is so like ahead of us. Like they said,
yeah,
Japan is actually 10 years ahead of the whole world. In
wow,
Japan, in primary schools, they make the kids, like basically cook their own lunches and like not just junk food, it's basically healthy food. Yeah, even
wow,
while
okay.
eating, and the children have to clean up the whole mess. You know, it's so like the discipline is like on another level basically in Japan. So
Mhm.
maybe Japan is a good example we might need to follow in the future because when it comes to discipline, like I know so many guys and girls like people who have left the teaching sector because of the children, children's behavior. They just can't
Yeah,
tolerate it.
yeah,
And we see on a regular basis, not just in the UK, in America too. A lot of the teachers get attacked, they get stabbed. Only a few days ago, one of the teachers got stabbed here, which we
yes,
never probably see in the subcontinent or in Asia. That's another
yeah.
difference, and it's very sad because teaching profession is seen is highly revered in many parts of the world,
I think,
highly respected. But
yeah,
it's very unfortunate, like people don't want to go into teaching, like a lot of sectors in this country, teaching is another sector which is crying out for teachers, and young people aren't actually entering that sector. That's a very worrying fact, worrying thing basically for the country.
yeah.
Because ultimately, the country will have to, like other sectors, like the healthcare sector, like the IT sector, the country will might have to at some point recruit teachers from abroad. You see?
And I think recruiting teachers from abroad has its benefits, but I do feel also that there is quite a bit of downside because you need teachers who actually understand the society in which they're teaching. So if
Hmm.
you have people coming from abroad, even though they might be good at the teaching itself,
Yeah.
if there isn't an understanding of the background of these children, where they've come from, their lives, their parents' lives, you're not able to, other than teaching them 1 + 1 is 2. The teacher is just more than that. It's not just about teaching. You're building a character, a personality. If
Hmm.
you don't understand what the personality is going through or what the personality is or wants to do, I think you can get the education done, but I think as a human development, which I believe is part of education, that won't be done.
Exactly.
That's my,
Yeah. I mean, another like surprising aspect of ChatGPT was that recently, like in the past, you could just write a question and it will give you the answer. If you
yeah,
want a assignment done, just type in the whole question and it'll give you the answer. But recently, they've come up with a new like system where it's called I think Open AI Sora. I don't know if you've heard of it. Sora is
I
a
have,
platform by ChatGPT, and the owners of ChatGPT are OpenAI. That's the company behind ChatGPT. So basically, they've come up with this new platform where you just type in a description, like say, for example, if you want to make a video, for example, so you type in, a 18-year-old, sitting down in a bench in a park and
yeah.
eating something. If you just type that and then press enter, literally within seconds, that platform will actually create a video for you. That's how easy it's become. So can you imagine how many jobs will go within that sector?
Yes,
You know,
that is, yeah,
the graphic
yeah.
design sector, the video sector. So that's
Yeah, so absolutely. As you said about education, and we mentioned about robots before, there's nothing stopping robots from teaching us. So what happens to the teachers? So
Mm,
what modern AI and development is doing is actually making human beings, or will make human beings, you know, um, just jobless, and in some cases might even become pointless.
exactly.
What will they be? So as a human race, have we designed technology to make ourselves useless?
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
again, I am all for education and advancement, but advancement to what end?
Hmm.
For example, if you think about it, during the World Wars, you had the atomic bomb.
Yeah,
So yes, development, but now we've developed ourselves so much that with the amount of nuclear arsenal they have, they
Hmm.
can blow the whole world up between them.
Which
So
is very scary.
how have we've advanced in killing ourselves more efficiently?
Hmm.
So so in terms of
Crazy.
education, I have to say, I think we've moved away from traditional education, which would set you up for life as a human being. Your teacher was also like your mentor. And I don't think that happens nowadays. Teacher is just someone who teaches you some sums or teaches some words or meaning of words. And it's sad that they have been reduced to that. So again, I think the actual whole education system within England, it needs a major shake-up. I
Oh, yeah,
really am
without
not
a doubt.
happy with what I've seen. As a governor, parent governor,
Yeah.
I can see that it's moving away from what was originally the aim of being a student in a school and learning and being mentored by, or looking up to your teacher as an example. I remember when we were young, we would see our teachers as example. If we were to do a survey now and ask the children in secondary school, do you see your teacher as your role model, they'll probably laugh at you, and it's sad,
Exactly.
really
Very
sad.
sad. Very sad because I know people who grew up in the Indian subcontinent, especially in Bangladesh. They highly revere their teacher, highly respect their
Yeah,
teacher. They talk about their teacher and they talk about uh, how the teacher made an impact into their lives and how the teacher motivated them. For example, let me give you an example. Like one of my a friend of mine who grew up in Bangladesh, he's actually a lawyer in this country, and he said he's a lawyer because his teacher supported him
yeah,
when he said like he wanted to become a teacher. His teacher actually supported him all the way and he motivated him, encouraged him. Whereas in this country, like you would have the free choice, the
yeah,
option to choose again, like we discussed the other day. Again, I find even from my children now speaking to friends and relatives, a lot of the times when kids reach 16, a lot of the times, say for example, if a student wants to study medicine, they'll be discouraged by the teachers. I've,
yeah,
I've seen it, within my friends and relatives. If someone wants to study law, they'll be discouraged because even the teacher says it's a very difficult subject. And a lot of the time, what happens nowadays, obviously, the government wants a lot of young children to actually take up apprenticeship. So that's another issue. Like
yeah,
and a lot of people, young people, believe that if you can get a job without a degree, why go for a degree? But degree historically is or was a sign of like intellect and education, and in many ways, like it's transferable, isn't it? Like if you have a degree, you can go to any country and get a job, especially with a British degree. But
yeah,
I'm seeing this trend where a lot of children are actually opting out of university and going for the apprenticeship route, because apparently a lot of
yeah.
apprenticeship they pay well, which is I don't know. I mean, this is how it is, how things are right now.
I think with education, the other thing I was going to say is it doesn't teach us life skills. I think in
Oh
terms of
yeah,
education, it
yeah,
doesn't teach us life skills. For example, if you and me were to go camping now and we couldn't, we don't have any of the modern technology, do you think you and me would be able to make a fire and go hunting? So the basic thing,
exactly, exactly.
because we have a situation now, we have been given this creation of a life
Hmm.
which is very, very artificial and it's detached from actual reality. So, God forbid, no, say something was to really go wrong. Say we had the electricity blackout
Hmm.
for 2 days.
Hmm.
Most people would be starving in those 2 days because
Exactly.
they don't know how to cook. So
Exactly.
I am very critical of the education system because another thing as well, it teaches you about maths and finance, but it doesn't actually tell you how to manage your money if you think about it.
Oh, yeah, very true.
It
Yeah, I
doesn't
was going to
actually,
come to that, but I think if she
yeah,
touched on it. Yeah, I mean, basically, survey after survey shows like most people tend to struggle financially in their lives, like especially after like they start working, and it's because these skills are never taught, like not taught in schools or even at homes. So obviously, some parents try to teach the kids money management, but I think money management should be a subject in schools, from
I did a business
even
degree.
from primary, yeah.
I mean,
Primary.
I did a yeah.
What?
So I was going to say I did a business degree, and we learned about employment law, we learned about marketing and all,
Yeah,
but nothing mentioned about managing your money. It's
exactly.
like the elephant in the room, and
Yeah,
everything else goes round it, but it
yeah.
doesn't teach you how to manage your money. And, for me, it's a big red flag to say, why is it that we're not taught that?
Yeah, maybe Zakir bhai, maybe there should be like, obviously nowadays like we didn't have cooking classes, but nowadays I don't know if you know this, there are cooking classes in schools, yeah. But these
Okay.
cooking classes are very basic, by the way, very basic, yeah. They teach you how to like just cook a
Make an omelette, I'm guessing,
yeah,
yeah?
bake a cake, Yeah, but I think it should be like comprehensive, like the
Yeah,
cooking classes should be
actual meals,
comprehensive, where it
actual
teaches
meals.
you to like cook basic stuff basically.
But
Yeah.
can you see that, Rulbai? You know what you just said there? Again, if you link it to wider, is it's unfortunate, but I don't think the education system is actually separate or independent to the big companies, business companies. If
Yeah.
you think about it, if they teach you how to cook, how many people are going to go to McDonald's, or how many children will go to McDonald's? So it's unfortunate, and people might call me cynical, but
Mm.
when you join up the dots, you see that the education system, unfortunately, just makes consumers out of children.
Yeah.
So why would they want to teach us money management? If we know how to manage our money, we cannot fall prey to all these big companies wanting our money. So
Mm.
I just, as I said, I feel very cynical, unfortunately,
Yeah.
about, and many of the viewers watching might find me slightly on the cynical side. But as I said, I've given this a lot of thought, because it's through education we become what we become. So if our education system is not a good one, it's not teaching us what we need to learn. The example I gave you about if you and me were to go camping and there was no modern facility, we'll probably starve. Again,
Exactly.
basic things like the hunter-gatherers used to have, we
Mm.
don't know. But the reason why we're never alarmed is because we live in a nanny state where we're being looked after.
Yeah.
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 So we are, there's no need for that. But should that need arise one day, we're going to be in big trouble. So I think, again, if the schools are doing cooking, other life skills like camping, lighting up fires, and the basic survival skills, I
Yeah.
do think should be taught.
Yeah.
And that is a change that needs to be made in the primary and the secondary school curriculum.
Right. Yeah. So, have you sort of, obviously, uh, every year we tend to get the stats, around education, how
Yeah.
people from different ethnicities are doing. Um, Obviously, last few years it was the Indians, but recently I came across
Um,
a study where it showed like the Chinese are the number one, by the way, in this
yeah.
country, who are getting the most top like grades in education, especially at the university level. Um, so, I mean, what's your take? I mean, Bangladeshis are they're doing pretty well,
Yeah.
doing
Yeah.
sort of above average, national average, better than the Indian
Yeah.
population,
They
generally.
sit behind. So you've got the Chinese, or if you want to call it what they call the Asians.
Yeah,
So that could include Vietnamese and others. So on generally they are highest, followed by the Indians, and then it's from the stats I saw. Then it's the Bangladeshis.
that's
They've
right.
taken over
Yeah,
the white
yeah, yeah.
so the white ethnicity they have taken over.
Mm.
There was a article in the Economist. It's quite a reputable newspaper. 24th of November 2022. There's
Mm.
an article printed. So for the viewers, if they want to know what I'm talking about and how credible it is, please do refer to the Economist paper. You can just go online, Google it, 24th November 2022. On that, it actually showed a timeline for Bangladeshis within Tower Hamlets, mainly within Tower Hamlets, but broader as well, but main focus on Tower Hamlets. From 1985, during those times when surveys were done, there was the reports or the Ofsted equivalent of that time was saying that it needs serious improvement. That was 1985, and now 2022, the success has really gone up. They have been recognised for the achievements that they've made from where they were back, 3-4 decades ago to where they are now. It's a huge improvement. But the sad part is, even with all the achievements, so education wise, it's a good achievement, but it's not translating into getting good jobs.
Mm.
That's the problem. So if you look at it, Tower Hamlets, they're doing really well, getting good grades, but you've got Canary Wharf. But how many children who are getting good grades are going to Canary Wharf for jobs? So that there is a disconnect there, and I think more needs to be done locally to see what the problem is, how we can solve it, and how quickly we can solve it, because our children are suffering.
Oh yeah, without a doubt, and we know Zakir Bhai, like because of we still suffer from institutional racism. Many
Absolutely, I was
institutions.
going to say that.
If you look at the police force, for example, Metropolitan Police, it's almost impossible to get in because I know a few guys who tried to apply, never got in. They were really passionate. Um,
Yeah,
like many professional sectors, the institutional racism still
yeah,
plays
there
a
is
big part.
absolutely, and I think there
But
is
I think
there is.
we should be hopeful. We should keep on trying. We should, try and sort of what's the word I'm looking
We
for?
shouldn't give up. We should not
Oh,
give
yeah,
up.
we shouldn't give up basically. So hopefully but things have improved over the decades.
And
If you
if we
compare
look at
now to
Indian,
1980s,
yeah,
in the 1980s, like Asian people couldn't even get a bank loan.
yes, yes.
So how things change, over the decades.
I think we spoke last time about the Indian community.
Yeah,
Now they were in similar situations a few decades back. So
exactly.
it's about, I think, following the sort of footpath, sorry, the in the footsteps of what the Indian community did. Obviously,
Exactly.
they're the most, if you want to call it, in terms of culture and other things,
Yeah.
quite closely sort of related to what we do.
Yeah.
And I do think there's no need to feel despondent. Kids getting good education results, but it's not translating to jobs. We just need to keep at it. And also with institutional racism, uh, what you need to do is, with the institutional racism, it's through policies and through raising awareness you can make changes.
Mm.
And it's not, it doesn't happen overnight. It's a long battle. So I think, we just need to be prepared for that. It's a battle worth fighting, but it does take for legislation and policies to change. It does, and the process is full of red tape. So it is a long process, but it's not impossible.
Mm. Yeah, even in public government jobs or public service, you see a lot of racism. Like even in like London, in many boroughs, if you look at uh, the stats, the Asians are still struggling to get to,
Yes,
top positions.
yes.
Especially
There's
the
a glass. We call it the glass ceiling.
last year.
So
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, yeah. It's really hard to break.
yeah. So yeah, it's unfortunate, but it is what it is. But I think we have to be hopeful and keep on trying.
No,
Hopefully things
absolutely.
change.
Yeah,
Can I just touch on like have you noticed like Tower has the highest number of tuition centers
I
in
didn't know that. No, I
yeah,
didn't
no,
know
you
that.
do. Even in especially E1 alone like has so many tuition centers. Um, Obviously, we can argue it's a good thing. There is pros and cons to everything, but then one might wonder, why is there so many tuition centers? Is it because the schools aren't doing a good job? Why are people having to send their kids to tuition centers? Is the
Yeah, that's
education
an argument.
being
Argument. Yeah,
being
absolutely.
dumbed down? But it's quite actually interesting. Like we have 32 boroughs in London, and yet Tower has the highest number of tuition centers, and all of them are doing pretty well. My kids went to, and one of them still does. He goes to. I'll give a shout out to that company. It's called easyeducationlondon.com, and they do a
Okay.
like wonderful job. They are so professional. They teach like key stage 1, 2, 3, to GCSEs, to A levels, and they have professional teachers. And most of the children who've been through their company, they did extremely well in their GCSEs and A levels. But there are a few other good companies in Tower Hamlets, let alone London. So do you think that is a good thing? What's your view?
I think it's
And why do you think we have so many tuition centers in Tower Hamlets? Like there's 32
okay.
boroughs.
Okay, so I think firstly, again, as a parent government, I do feel that a lot of schools they concentrate on just achieving Ofsted approval. So the children who are sort of above, the intelligence is above average. I think they are just left to just do their work, and no further encouragement is given to them.
Mm.
So my belief is that a lot of these tuition centers are probably catered towards those children who want to sort of improve themselves even more. I think that's where this is again from my own personal experience.
Mm.
When we ask questions and say, so what happens to the ones who are excelling? There isn't much provision. Now, those who are not doing well, there's a lot of provision. Those who are doing okay, there's average provision. And those who are excelling, there is nothing to sort of push them further. So I think that it may be one of the reasons why that there are a lot of these tuition centers. And I think also, again, I don't know how this is going to sound to our viewers based on what sort of parents they are themselves. They may respond to this differently. But I do think sometimes parents feel if they send the children to tuition, they as parents have done their job. They've sent them somewhere. And I think if your reason for sending them is because you think that's you've done your job, then I don't think that's the right understanding. Because what happens?
I think obviously Bengalis, especially in London, especially in Tower Hamlets, for them to send their kids to tuition center is a big deal, and also to have the highest number of tuition centers in the whole of the country.
Yeah,
It's a massive um, what's the word I'm looking for? Massive change, compared
yeah,
to other boroughs, and I think it's a good thing that says like Bengali parents want their kids to do well. They're willing to go out of the way. They're willing to spend extra money on their kids, which is very unique to other boroughs, you see, which we never saw in the past. In
yeah,
terms
no,
of
definitely. I think parents are investing a lot more. I
but
mean, what I was saying before when I
but you really have to give credit to the minority students, because especially like the Muslim students, they
yeah,
have so many other responsibilities and other extracurricular activities, such as like they have to do Arabic classes. You
yes,
know,
absolutely,
they have to, some of them go to Bengali classes in the evenings. You and it's like 5 days a week, and a lot of them go from Monday to Friday, 5 days a week. And my son goes like during the weekends, but still does go. He does so many extra curricular activities besides his education. He goes to a
yeah,
football club. He'll go to tuition, the Easy London
right
Education,
there.
yeah, Easy London Education .com. He's got those classes to attend to, and then he's got martial arts classes. He goes to swimming classes. So can you
Wow, okay.
imagine, like these are like extracurricular activities which a lot of the ethnic minority students, have to do after
That's
school.
a good.
Uh,
That's definitely a good thing. I have to say. I think we growing up, we didn't. I don't think our parents were again keen on any of these. I can't remember doing any of these
yeah,
extracurricular activities. Very few would do martial arts,
yeah,
and even less so would do swimming
yeah,
as an extracurricular activity. But I do think that's where the Bangladeshi parents within Town Hamlets, I think are doing quite well. That they are utilizing their children's time. Whereas
mm,
before, what used to happen is Monday to Friday, you go to school, you come
yeah,
back, and if you go to mother like the Arabic reading, then you're using your time. If not, you'd be at home just playing. So a lot of time, I think when we were so young, I don't think we utilize our time as well as the children do now.
yeah. Anyway, with the time running out, we'll have to
Okay.
wrap up the program slowly. So obviously, when I was going to school in the sort of late 80s, mid 80s to 90s,
Yeah.
I'm giving away my age, by the way. Um, Obviously, Town was the place we live in, Town Hamlets, the London Borough of Town Hamlets, used to have one of the most like worst schools in London.
Yes.
You know, go for like 20, 30 years. Now we have one of the best schools,
Yes, it's a
in
turnaround,
London.
big turnaround.
Yeah, it's a big turnaround, and it's all to do with the hard work of the schools, the council, the parents. It's a collective effort, isn't it? Zakir Bhai?
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, absolutely.
And I know like parents actually bring their children from other boroughs to towns, you know.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, now you do. We learn every day. Honestly, parents who live in other boroughs, they actually bring their kids to towns, primary schools and secondary school.
Wow. Okay.
So that's a big
So,
achievement for
so
Bangladesh.
Rulbay, before time runs out, I was just going to say one thing for our viewers. I had a parent governor meeting quite recently, and we're mentioning about online safety.
Hmm.
So, there are children at the age of 6 who are watching Squid Game, the film. Yeah, I think Squid something, yeah. Parents, my request to all the viewers and to pass this message on, and if there is any imams of mosques who are listening to this, please in your sermons do mention this, because a lot of children are watching things which are very inappropriate for them. They are wasting their time a lot of the time, because these children are quite savvy when it comes to using technology. By the time their parents come, they've already changed their page to something else. So parents are none the wiser. And these are actual documented evidence which shows that children are not safe online until and unless parents are become a lot more engaged. And I think parents should be taking courses as well, online safety, because your children are your future. So that would be my request. Sorry, carry on, Wolba, you can
No,
say.
that's fine. That's fine. That's a very excellent point, actually. I think one thing parents really need to sort of do is learn IT themselves. At least know how these uh,
Yes,
gadgets work. How laptop works, how the iPads work, so they can at least monitor. Or even like when kids at home are actually on their laptops or on their iPads, just to monitor like every now and then, at least every 15, 20 minutes, what they're doing, and not to let the kids rock through it. That's very important.
absolutely. One child, Ruhul Bhai,
Yeah.
the reason why I want to raise this, one child actually, I think it's a year 6 child, managed to open a business using his mum's details, and his mum was an actual business.
Yeah.
How could 11 year, you
Anyway,
know,
yeah, yeah, exactly. Anyway, it's very, yeah. Anyway, we've run out of time. We've got 30 seconds. Zakir, what's your final message quickly to
I would just say that, education has improved from before, but I do think that we shouldn't totally give away or forget the learning that we used to, have, 5 decades ago. I think it should be a mixture of what used to happen before and what happens now, not just technology and modern education.